Here we are on the front of our 3303 CK Alpine by Keystone. We're going to go through a walkthrough on our unit and touch on some of the technical items just like your technician did on date of delivery. If you want more information on brands of components that are in here or more information on these components, you can find them on our YouTube channel for Great American RV under the HAPS Helpful Hacks section of that playlist. Now we're going to start up front. Of course, we have our kingpin up here that we hook up to our hitch. We also have our seven-way transfers, all of our lights for our running lights, brake lights, and so on our unit. It also transfers a charge line from our truck to our battery system. So when our alternator is running on our truck, it will also charge the battery on our unit. And we also have a brake line that runs through there too for that brake controller to control the brakes on our fifth wheel. Now we also have this breakaway cable right here. This should be hooked to the tie downs in the bed of your truck or somewhere other than the hitch itself. Maybe even the pins that hold that hitch into the rail, something of that nature, because the idea is if this or the fifth wheel hitch itself rips out or breaks, that pin is going to pull out of this box and activate the brakes on our fifth wheel in order to stop it. So this is the first compartment under your fifth wheel. We can see here, this is a system for our hydraulics. We have our tank down here with our hydraulic fluid. We only want to add hydraulic fluid when all of our jacks are retracted as well as our slide outs. If we don't do that, then this will not read properly. You'll actually have hydraulics in those lines and you can overfill it and make a huge mess. So never add anything to this or check that level unless everything is fully retracted on your unit. Now you do have your motor up here. We talked about the override for this system. This is where that motor is going to be, and these are where the valves are going to be that you would follow the directions for that override in the event that something happened. Now you do have a breaker down here at the bottom for the jack system. It's a 12-volt breaker. If this motor isn't running, you want to go and check that. Back here, you'll also notice your battery disconnect. That battery disconnect is for if you're storing your unit and you're not plugged in, you want to disconnect your battery and save the voltage on it. We just click that to the off, and that will disconnect the battery from the rest of your camper so it can't drain it down, and your solar system can still charge that system while it's disconnected. We'll talk about the solar in a second. If you are charging your unit plugged in, we want to make sure we leave that on. That way our converter, which changes voltage from 110 to 12 volts, it's essentially a battery charger, can charge that battery system while you're plugged in and storing your unit. So storing it plugged in, disconnect on, storing it unplugged, disconnect off. So we have another disconnect right here up top. That disconnect is for our inverter, hiding behind this panel right here. That inverter is to change voltage from 12 volts to 110. So if we're dry camping, we don't have a place to plug in, we can pull from our battery and change voltage to 110 to operate some of our inverted outlets to run some small appliances in our unit. Now our inverter system does have a 250 amp 12 volt fuse up there. If it's not working properly, we want to check that first. We also want to check and make sure that our inverter is on. You also are going to have a reset switch on the inverter itself too. You can check to see if that is tripped. We do have the controls for that on the inside. We'll go over a little bit later. We have a switch back here. This is for our docking lights. That is controlling the lights on the front cap of your unit. Down below that is our smart solar controller. That converts our solar energy from the rooftop down to a controllable voltage that will charge our batteries. So that does all that smart thinking for us. We can just not worry too much about that. It does give us some monitoring lighting on the side to let us know what it's doing. But below that, we have our solar disconnect. If we want to turn off that solar stuff, we can just click it off and that solar system is down and dead. Now, once again, I said if we turn the regular battery disconnect off, it's not going to affect our smart solar system. It will still charge those batteries during that time. It does not disconnect that component. Only time that smart solar won't work is if we turn that disconnect off, or of course if we don't have sunlight. Up above your inverter, you're also going to have your transfer switch already installed on here. This is for if you upgraded to a generator. and this would transfer the power from the shore power to the generator whenever connected. In that other compartment to your right, you'll also find where that generator can be installed and fabricated in. And if we look up top, we'll find that is where our LCI leveling system is located. So here we are on the passenger side of our unit. We have our slide out, so we can see here, your front slide is a cable-driven slide identified by the cables on the top and bottom of each side. And our bigger main slides are going to be hydraulic slides. If we want more information on either one of these components, we can find that in the helpful hacks section on our YouTube channel. Also on the side here, we have our touchscreen panel for our LCI Titan leveling system. That is our base camp touchscreen. If we want quick reference and we're at the campground, we forget how to use it, we can find that on our LP door right there. We'll see a tag up at the top left corner. That's going to give you a quick reference for that system. For right now, we're going to take a closer look at it. So here we are on that base camp touchscreen for our Titan jacks. We can see at the bottom left corner, we have a quick shortcut to turn our lights off and on the jacks themselves. If we hit this question mark right here, we have a QR code, which can generally also be found in that LP compartment or one of the other doors. You'll see that sticker, and it's going to bring you to literature on these specific Titan jacks. It'll run you through the same stuff that I'm gonna run you through. It'll also go over information on how to override these jacks in the event that your pump fails and how to manually retract them or extend them. So moving in, we can see our default pin, which is from the factory, 5241. And we hit the green check and we're on it. So immediately we're gonna go into our options to start off with. I'm gonna show you that if we go into our current level, this is going to tell us what the level of our unit is. If we go into auto level, this is going to be our different set points. We'll go over that information here shortly. If we go to jack lights off and on, we can adjust the brightness and the timer on how long we want them to run. Turn them off and on here. We have our different modes, our manual mode, which is if we want to manually extend or retract the jacks. We click that screen again. Our front jacks are going to run simultaneously. You can't do those individually. You'll hit extend and retract. If we want to turn those off, click them again. We can do our rear individually, left or right, and extend or retract. Get out of that screen. Go back into our options and modes. We have our arrival. Now these are the different screens that you're going to see dependent on where you are in your camping trip. So arrival is right when you get to the campground. The system detects all your jacks are up, so it's going to assume that you are arriving, and it'll come up with the bigger option of extending land gear, retracting landing gear, and then auto level, which are the options that you would generally use right when you arrive at the campsite. Our next mode is our auto level. It's just going to give you the different set points here of what auto levels we can go to. Now we have our factory set auto level, which is going to be our 0 point null. It's what we consider level by the factory. They take a 4-foot level, put it in the unit. Now if you find where the factory setting is off or not to your desire, you can hit this 3 dots up here at the top right, and that will bring you to be able to change that setting. We hit change, and just like our manual mode, we can select the jacks that we want to extend and retract and get a 4-foot level, put it in your unit, and you can adjust it. When you're done, you'll hit set and it will save that factory setting. Now, every time you go to auto level from that point, that will be the setting that it goes to. Now you have your set points 1, 2, and 3. This is for options such as maybe you're storing your unit. Let's say that's what we want our set point 1 at. We can hit those 3 dots on the side and we can change it. And let's say we want to nose down our camper or nose up our camper so the water will run off of our unit. We can put these jacks whatever formation we want and kick it up within a 5-degree slant. It won't do over that. And it won't save that set point. So keep that in mind. If it doesn't save, you're probably out of that 5-degree margin. Once it's set, it'll bring you out of that screen. And now when you hit set point 1, it'll go to that nose up or nose down position, whatever you chose it to be. Now set point 2 and set point 3 can be whatever you desire, the same thing. So let's say, you know, these campers are heavy on your truck sometimes, and you have to pull up to a dump station to dump, and you're nose down, and you have a pipe that points to the back of the unit. So all that water isn't really draining out of the pipe. You can do set point 2 for your front landing gears, just lifting the camper up enough to add a little slope to it and allow that water to drain the rest of the way out of that pipe. So you can be creative and have whatever options you want set in there. Our last mode is our departure mode. This would be after you've auto leveled and everything, you're ready to go home. This is likely the screen that's going to pop up. So we would return to hitch height. Now this height is going to be the height that you were at just before you hit auto level. Generally that height is going to be where your truck disconnected from your camper, so your hitch should go back up to that hitch height, and when you press that button, it's going to hit that point. Now we can extend and retract manually to adjust that if we're a little bit off, and when we're done, we're hooked up to our truck, we know that that hitch is secure, everything's good, we can hit retract all, and all of our jacks will come up. Our next option in here is dark theme or light theme. We can go ahead and choose that option. That just changes the background of our screen. Now, like I said, every time you open this up, if you've done something different, it's going to generally have a different screen based on what the level of those jacks are. So like I said, we unlocked it here and it comes to that extend landing gear. Basically it's saying we're in arrival mode. If we went into auto level and the screen blacked out after that, we came back to it, it's probably gonna have auto hitch height as that option. So whatever the screen pops up to, you have the option to go into a different one by going into options, then modes, and it's going to once again bring you to a different screen. We can run manual mode, we can run our auto level mode. No matter what, you can get to any of these screens. It's very repetitive. You just have to go through the options and get them. Otherwise, it's going to suggest what option you want next in order to run your jacks. Now, you can also hook this up to your Bluetooth on your phone. We'll show you how to do that next. So this is the tag that I mentioned earlier that you can generally find in one of your compartment doors. And if not, you can find it on the actual brains of the auto leveling system, generally found in that front storage compartment or your pass-through compartment on your unit. So what we want to do is download our LCI One Control app. We can scan this QR code right here. This will bring us to the App Store to download that app. Once we've done that, you'll have to enter a series of information, including the make, model, and year of your unit, as well as your VIN number. Once you've done that, you'll scan this QR code right here, and this will grant you access to the system. Then it's going to ask you for a password. You'll enter your password into the system, and then it'll bring you into the options to be able to control that app. Now, we do have the information on that app. It is pretty repetitive to that screen. It gives you a few more options in there. We have more information on the full video on our Titan system. So behind that touchscreen, we have our dual propane tank system. That system has a dual propane regulator. If we have both tanks on, we can use this selector valve right here and turn that valve to either the left tank or the right tank, whichever one we want to be our primary, and it will start pulling from that tank. When that tank runs dry, you'll get a red indicator right here in that display, and the system will automatically change over to that secondary tank so you don't lose use of your propane in the middle of cooking. Now, of course, once that secondary tank runs dry, you're out and you need to fill them both up, but it will indicate, hey, this one's empty. You can fill it up while you're using that secondary tank. Behind me here, we have our pass-through compartment, and behind that, we have our convenience center for all of our water, our low point drains, our key TV system. Let's take a closer look at that right now. So here we are in our convenience center. Up top, we have our key TV system. This over here is our satellite port. If we have an external satellite that we set up at the campground, we can run that wire through the hole down here at the bottom, hook it up here. Then on the interior or exterior, we hook up from the satellite to the receiver with a coax, and then an HDMI to the TV. If we install a rooftop satellite system, we can hook that up right here. That wire is already ran to our rooftop, and we can connect it right here without having to run a new wire. Our cable system, if we have cable at the campground, we hook it up right there, and it will send that to our TVs. Here we have our quick connect for our coiled hose. We can hook up and have a hose shower outside with hot and cold water. Our tank flush right here, this is for our black tank. It's like a jet inside that tank to help flush it out. We'll go over that information when we get over to that. Just remember that that's where it's at. Our freeze guard winterization system. This is for when we're winterizing our unit and preparing for that cold weather. So if we look down here, we also have our low point drains down here. That's where that comes in as well. To start that process, you'll empty out your low point drains, and this will drain all the water out of your system. And then we're going to go over to our winterization valve right here. We're going to turn that from off to on, like so. And then we would get a hose, hook it to here, and put the other end in RV antifreeze. We kick on that water pump and it will pull from that RV antifreeze jug and insert antifreeze into the pipes of your unit. And from there we go and shut off each one of these connections as that antifreeze starts to come out of those ports. Once everything's done, then we'll go ahead and shut this system off, and we'll turn back to our off on winterize, and our unit is prepped. Then from there we also pour some antifreeze down our P-traps, and that will prepare us for the winter. Our city water connection is where we hook up if we have water at the campground. We come here, we hook that water hose up to it, turn it on, and that will supply water to our fixtures. When we use that city water connection, we need to make sure we're in normal flow right here. Now, if we don't have a city water connection, we're dry camping wherever we go. Before we leave on our trip, we want to fill our fresh tank. Fresh tank is that onboard water system, and we hook our city water connection here while we're at the house still. We come over here and we go to fill. Go to fill, we turn that water hose on, and we will be filling that tank. You can monitor the level of that by your touch screen on the interior. Now, once we're done filling, we disconnect that hose, we go back to normal flow here, and we can initiate using that water by clicking our water pump on our touch screen on the interior, and that will pull from that tank and supply water to our fixtures. If we are on city water connection, we want to turn that water pump off. If our fresh tank is empty, we want to turn that water pump off. Speaking of empty fresh tank, you don't want to carry more than what you need because this does add weight to our trailer. And if we are not using it, no point in keeping it in there and letting it become stagnant. So empty that water out. We'll show you the location of that in a little while. Here we have our black tank and gray tank valves. So our black tank is our sewage. Everything from our toilet is going into that black tank. Our sewage, our toilet paper, and should be nothing else. We don't want to put any other items in there that don't belong. So our black tank needs to stay closed all the time when we're camping unless we are dumping that tank. We do that because if we allow the water to escape that tank, then the solids that are in there are going to dry up, it's going to damage that tank, and it's not going to be right. So we need to make sure we keep this closed while we're camping. When we do get to that dump station, or we have one at our campsite, we're ready to dump because it's full or we're done camping, we hook up that sewage hose connection, put it in the port, and then we open this black tank valve. From there, our system will begin to drain out. That's where your black tank flush up there comes in handy. You hook a water hose up to that, and that jet port will help rinse out that tank system. Now, we can close that black tank off with the black tank flush running, but I would only do it for about 30 to 60 seconds, and then we open it back up to help flush some of those solids out. You don't want to leave it running for long because you can overflow your black tank into your unit, and that gets nasty. So flush out your tank system. You're going to have to do it a couple times to have that monitor reading properly, and then we want to close it off, add a couple of gallons of water to it, either through the toilet or with your black tank flush, and leave that water in there even when you're storing it, and add some chemicals. This will help degrade anything else that's left in it. Our gray tanks, however, these come from our showers and our sinks. You have two of them, one for your shower and your sink in your bathroom, and the other one is going to be for your kitchen. Now, these can stay open all the time as long as you have that hose connection at the campground. At your campsite, you can go ahead and put that in. They can drain all the time, or you can leave them closed and dump them whenever they get full, whatever you prefer. Of course, if you're dry camping, you don't have that connection, you want to close them off. your hot and cold low point drains right here. We talked about that with your winterization, and you have that port right here that all of these hoses can come through. So moving down the line, we have our Girard tankless water heater system. This is a gas operated appliance. When initiated, it's going to pull from your propane tanks, and it's going to be an on-demand water heater that is going to supply endless hot water to your fixtures. We'll go over the controls on how this operates when we get inside in the bathroom. Behind that, we have our furnace operated by our thermostat on the inside. Once again, another gas operated appliance, and you are going to have some exhaust come out of here as well as right here. Those areas will get a little warm when in operation. Down here we have our amber light right here. This can be upgraded on both sides and in the rear to give you turn signal cameras as well as a backup camera with the Furrion tri-camera system. If you want to upgrade to that, it's already pre-wired. You just need to buy the camera setup and you can have that there. Now below our J-ramp, we have this plastic tube. That tube is for our storage for that 4-inch hose connection that we can hook right there to our dump station. That connection that we talked about for our dump station right there. Just below our J-ramp in front of our axle, we'll see that blue line with a valve on it. That valve is to drain the water line out of our freezer. It is also a water line for that ice box connection to be able to make ice in there. So we want that valve off normally. And when we are ready to drain our water or drain the water out of that freezer, whether we're storing it or prepping for winter, we want to kick that open with our city water off and our water pump off so the water can drain out of that line. On our slide out, of course, this is our kitchen slide. We'll notice we have a vent up there. It does have a couple of turn tabs on it to be able to close that vent off when you store it. That way, no rodents, insects, or anything can build a nest in there. If we want to use that stovetop vent above our 3-burner stove, we need to open those tabs so the air will actually exhaust out. So on the rear of our unit, just ahead of our power reel, we do have our fresh tank dump back here. We'll see a white pipe down at the bottom. There is a valve right here on the frame behind the J-wrap. You pull that valve and you can dump that fresh tank. On the rear of our unit, we have our 50-amp service reel right here. That's a 12-volt operated reel. It can be retracted by holding down that button on the side when you're ready to store it. When you're ready to pull it out, just keep pulling that cord until you have enough to be able to plug it in. Now when we go to plug in at the campground, I want to make sure that our AC system at least is off so we don't have any surges to that appliance and cause any issues with the compressor. Now we'll notice up top we have our Keystone camera ready system. That is part of that pre-wired camera system we talked about with the Furrion lights over on the side. We can add a backup camera on there. We do have a receiver hitch down right here with our tow hook spots as well as a 4-way plug so we can tow a trailer behind us, and it does have a weight rating on there, so make sure you're following those guidelines. We also have our factory supplied ladder on the back end. We need that ladder because after trips we need to go check our roof and make sure we didn't hit any low-lying tree limbs and cause any damage to the rubber on our roof. We also need to check our sealants on our roof every 60 to 90 days. This includes our sealants on our sides, around our trims, lights, windows, everywhere around our unit we have sealants, roofs, sidewalls, everywhere. We need to check all of these sealants every 60 to 90 days. This is part of customer maintenance. If we don't take care of these things, we're allowing an opportunity for water entry, and that will damage our camper. Manufacturers do not participate in the repair of those type of items. They consider that customer maintenance, just like changing the oil in your car. So make sure you're taking care of your camper for years to come by checking that sealant every 60 to 90 days. Here on the passenger side of our unit, we have our front compartment where we store our batteries, and we also have our solar on the side prep. This is for if we are storing our unit inside or under trees, anything like that. We still want access to solar. You can buy a solar panel, put it on the side and plug it in there, and it will route into your smart solar controller system. Behind that, we have our pass-through storage bay. We have our in-command center right there. There's more videos for that through Keystone. That is basically the brains for all your touchscreen panel. There's some overrides in there. We're not going to go over that in this video, but we do have it out there in our helpful hacks section. You also find a handle in there. That handle is for your spare tire. Your spare tire is mounted towards the rear behind the axle, and if you look behind your J-wrap, you'll see that little nut on there. You can put that handle on there and you can crank that down to get your spare tire out. You also notice mounted to the ceiling in that front compartment is your Key TV outdoor cable system. This is opposite of where we hooked in on the other side. This is where it comes out. So we can mount a TV out here. We have a receptacle here and in there to be able to plug it in. Your Key TV system has your satellite prep. So if you do have satellite, you'll come out with a coax, go to your receiver for Dish Network or DirecTV, and then with the HDMI out of that into your TV for that service. If you're using cable or antenna, just a coax from there straight to your TV, and then you can scan for channels. Now with that Key TV system, there's no need for a boost button for the antenna system. It automatically swaps over, turns that off and on when you're between cable and antenna. If you don't know about that, don't worry about it, because this is a system that every other unit has except for Keystone. They made it a lot easier swapping between that cable and antenna without the need for the antenna boost button. On our unit, we have our Lippert solid steps. Our solid steps are adjustable to level them out. That's one of the first things we want to do after we auto level our unit is come over here. They have these pins on the bottom. We pop those pins out and we can adjust our legs to make sure our steps are level. Want to do that for a couple reasons, because we want to make sure, of course, it's level when we're going in and out of the unit, but also when we open and close our door, we want to make sure that that frame isn't hitting the bottom of that door and causing any damage. Now you will notice also on your door that it is a friction controlled door, so you're going to feel some resistance there. That way when the wind blows, it doesn't slam that door shut. Now when you're storing your solid steps, pretty easy, lift them up. You do have a shock assist in there, so it can all be done by one hand. You're gonna put it in there, turn that yellow handle, that way those clips can lock into the frame. Give it a little tug so we know that it's secure, then you can close your door. To take it down, turn that yellow lever, and once again, shock assist, so it's gonna stop halfway. You can pull those steps down the rest of the way and set them down. Before we go into the interior of our unit, we have our awning. We'll talk about that. It is a 12-volt powered device, run in and out by the push of a button. Your awning is a sunshade only. It's not intended to cover you from the rain or anything like that. So if it's raining, if it's high wind, anything like that, you want to roll your awning in to make sure that you're protecting it from any damage. If you're leaving your campground for a period of time, short or long, roll that awning in just to be safe. It can be an expensive repair if any of those things kind of happen, and it turns out it's going to be an insurance claim or customer pay because manufacturers do not partake in any repairs due to damage. So make sure we're doing that. We'll have some residual runoff from condensation on the air conditioner or maybe dew on the roof, so on and so forth. That water is going to run off and it can pile up on that awning. So to keep it from becoming a pool of water on there, we want to pitch our awning. And this information goes the same for our rear awning on here too. So we roll our awning out. The easiest access point to do that is right here by your entry door. You have this arm, you have two clips, you squeeze those clips together and you grab your arm and slide it down just a couple holes, just enough for the awning to be pitched to the rear. If you want to do the front, you can get a ladder, certainly do the front. And same thing you want to do on your rear awning. Slight pitch in either direction so that water can run off and it doesn't compile on top of that awning. To put it back, squeeze those tabs again. Slide it up to that first hole, and then we can roll our awning in. So as we walk into our hallway of our unit, we have our road vac, our built-in vacuum system. In order to operate it, you'll have the hose connections and everything with your unit. You'll slide this up, stick the hose in there, kick it on, and you can vacuum. Now we do have a built-in bag in here. We slide this little hole right here down. That bag will be inserted on here. We fill up our bag, we throw it away, we put a new one on, and we also have a little filter in there we need to monitor as well. Reinsert the bottom first, and then we pull that latch down to lock it in up top. Behind me here we have our 110 12-volt control center. We have all our 110 breakers all labeled for all of our 110 appliances. If we have issues with any of those items, we want to come here first. Here we have all of our 12-volt fuses. This is for our 12-volt components. Want to come here to check if we have any issues with those. Once again, all labeled so it's easy to find which one is which. So also in our hallway, we have our in-command touchscreen center. Our default password is 000. Now, we'll go right into it. If we want to change that password, we'll go into settings, we'll go to passcode, and we'll enter that new password, well, the old password, sorry, 000, and then we can choose to change the passcode, clear the passcode, whatever, and we have those options all right there. We also have Bluetooth options to be able to hook up to our phone if we want to pair and download that in-command system and pair it and operate some of this stuff from our phone. We can certainly do that. I don't suggest going into things like our floor plan or anything else unless advised by a technician or in-command or Keystone. Now, one thing I will tell you, you can go into notifications right here and it will notify you, like when your battery voltage gets low, it will notify you. If your fresh tank or your black tanks get to a certain level, you can choose that level that you want it to notify you at. That way you can tend to those conditions. So back to our main screen, we can see up top we have all of our tanks right here and it tells us the level we're at. If we want a different view, just tap on that. This is where we'll monitor that system. If you do have the generator option, you can start and stop that generator from here or set a schedule for it. We also have our awnings to be able to run them in and out, as well as turn the light on. Our slide systems in and out. We have our lights. This will control all of our lights for our interior as well as our awning light. Now, also a quick shortcut on that home screen, we can cut those interior lights and exterior lights off right there too. Now, this will only control lights that aren't on a particular switch. It's not going to control everything in the unit. Our hitch option right here will control our landing gears in the front of our unit. And we have a tank heater system on this unit for our fresh tank, gray tank, black tank, and battery. This is to be able to turn on those heater systems if it gets cold. That way the liquids inside don't freeze and it keeps your battery at a healthy temperature. Our AC system and heating system, all of our HVAC. So we'll start off with our bedroom AC. We have our mode for fan, and fan is just going to circulate air through the ductwork in the AC. That fan is going to come on. You can choose low or high, and that fan will run all the time. It's not going to cool your unit. It's not going to heat your unit. It's just going to distribute air through it. Our next mode is our cool mode. Our cool mode is our AC. Now, for that one, you have auto for the cool, and that will turn the fan off and on when that AC system is operational. So when the compressor turns off, that fan will shut off soon after. We also have low and high, and that means that fan will run all the time on low or high, regardless if the compressor is off or on. To the right, we have our set point. This is the set temperature that we have the thermostat at, that we want that desired temperature to be. Our zone is what the current temperature is in that area. Of course, to change our set temp, up and down right there. And that's the last mode on our bedroom. Now, for our living room area, we'll have the same thing. We'll have off mode, then we'll also have fan mode, high and low, and then we have our cool mode, auto, low, high for our fan and our set points, but we're also going to have our heat option. Now, our heat option has gas, which will come from our furnace down at the bottom, and if we only want that to run, we leave our fan in that off position, that furnace will kick on, and we check for our set point once again for that desired temp. This will tell you what that room temperature is. Now, we may also have electric. Electric is the heat pump in that living room AC. This is intended just to knock the chill out. This is not going to heat up your unit. If you're at 30 degrees, you need to kick the furnace on. This is for if you're at 55 degrees or something, you want to knock the chill out, you can turn it on electric and you don't have to use that gas. It'll come through your AC vents on the roof, and your fan speeds apply the same. Auto to shut it off whenever that heat pump is not operational, and high and low to run all the time if you wish. Now, I will tell you, if you are on gas and you do have it on the fan, auto, high or low, that rooftop air will run, but it's not necessarily doing anything. So keep that in mind. The next module on here, as I said earlier, was settings. We can go in there, customize a few things if we want. We have our little cheat sheet for our battery voltage here and our water pump. Our water pump, if we want to initiate that, that's going to pull from that onboard storage water tank that we have, our fresh tank. We kick that on when we don't have a city water connection at the campground. We're dry camping, we need water, we kick that on. Now, if your tank is empty, do not run that pump. If you're on a city water connection, do not run that pump. Below our touchscreen, we have our controller for our fan. That is our residential fan in our living room area. We can turn it on, change the speeds, and reverse the flow of the air up or down. To the right of that is our inverter monitor. Our inverter changes voltage from 12 volts to 110. So if you have several batteries in there, you don't have a plug-in at the campsite or wherever you're at, you can have that inverter operational, and this will give you the battery voltage on here of what that state of your batteries are, and it converts the 12 volt voltage to 110 to those inverted outlets that you have on your unit. So it's not going to run everything, it's not going to run your AC system and stuff, just the small inverted outlets on your unit. Now, it does give you a legend over here on the side as far as what some of the dots may mean on here for your display. We can go in and they have a ton of alarms and different settings in here, but I don't necessarily suggest going into them until you read the owner's manual. Most common thing is you just want it to turn on so you can use those inverted outlets, and that's it. Down below that, we have our two controls for our max air fans in our kitchen. This is to exhaust air out. We have our fan speeds 1, 2, 3, and 4, fan off, and we can open and close that vent lid. Here we are in the bathroom of our unit. Of course, we have glass sliding doors. They do have a travel latch. We need to go ahead and put that latch on there when we are traveling so those glass doors don't get broken. You also have a vent up here on the roof line. You want to turn that on whenever you're taking a shower so it'll exhaust all the steam out of here. You don't have all that humidity in here. That way it can reduce the opportunity for mold and mildew. Now, our shower is standard. We have that hot and cold faucet on there, but on our shower heads of an RV, we have this on-off knob right here. This is to be used when we are dry camping, and of course it's your choice how you want to do it. But when we're dry camping, we're trying to reserve the amount of water we use out of our fresh tank as well as the amount of water we put into our gray tank because we don't have a dump station or we don't have a city water connection, one of those two or both of them combined. So you get ready, you go take a shower, you rinse off to get all wet, and then you're ready to lather up. You want to kick that off so you can lather up, and then you kick it back on whenever you're ready to rinse, and this conserves the amount of water that you're using as well as disposing of. Now, we'll give you a little hint. Whenever you kick that back on, point it to the wall because that first burst of water will be a little cold. And another convenience is you don't have to find that sweet spot for the hot water at the faucet, so that keeps you from having to mess with the faucets too. On our toilet, pretty standard, a lot like your household toilet, right? So you have a pedal down at the bottom instead of a valve up here. You depress that pedal and you can flush. Now, if we're doing number one, just liquids, hit that pedal, send it down the drain. Remember, all this is going to your black tank, okay? Now, if we're doing solids, we need to fill that bowl up about halfway. We can do that by barely depressing that pedal to where that valve doesn't open at the bottom, but we do have water starting to fill up that bowl. Fill it up halfway, 3/4 of the way, and then we go to flush it. That way it has enough water to help flush those solids down into the tank. Now, when I say solids, I mean sewage and I mean RV toilet paper only. We don't put anything else, and I mean anything else in these toilet systems. Otherwise, you're going to clog up your drainage. So make sure we're only using those two items, and whenever we are camping or after we are done camping and we've flushed our systems, we need to be adding chemicals regularly to make sure it's helping decompose everything in that system. Over to my left here, we have a GFCI outlet. Now, we've talked about GFCI protected outlets all throughout our unit. The GFCI outlet is in our bathroom is where our main breaker for that is. It's on the outlet. We have two buttons on here. The red button is our test button where we can test that system. We push it and a red light comes on. That lets us know that it is faulted. To reset that system, we hit the top button, which is our reset button, and it resets that outlet like a breaker. Now, if any of your outlets outside or in your kitchen are not working, this is the first place you want to go to if it says GFCI protected outlet on it. and check and see if that red light is on. If it's on, hit that reset button. If it's off, then you want to go to your breaker panel. Now, you may kick it back on and it trips right off the back. This could be because the outlets are wet or you have too much stuff plugged in. Too many coffee pots, too many griddles, too many whatever. And so you need to either blow the water off of it or you need to unplug some of those items, reset it, then plug them back in one at a time. Over in the corner, we have our Girard tankless water heater system. We'll go over the operation of that now. Here we have our Girard tankless water heater control. We have our Celsius Fahrenheit button right here at the top left to swap between the two types of temperature. We have our on off button and we have our up and down that will change the temperature that we have set for our unit. Now, once we initiate our hot water, you'll see a couple of things happen. You'll see our temperature up here change to our output temperature, which is the temperature of the water coming out of our tankless water heater system. We'll also see a shower head icon at the bottom right. That shows that water is in use. And then we'll see our fan icon on the bottom left, lets us know that our tankless water heater system is initiating. Once we see the flame that pops up in the middle of our unit, that means that our system is actually heating that water, and we'll see that temperature begin to increase. Now, these systems only run for 20 minutes before going into a shutoff mode. In the event that you're still using hot water after that point, just turn the hot water off and turn it back on and it will reinitiate and begin to heat water again. Not a whole lot to go over in our bedroom. We do have another key TV connection for our bedroom TV, as well as a dimmer switch for our lights. In our closet area, we do have hookup for our washer dryer system, that hot and cold water line in there, as well as our drain tube for the drain and our vent to vent out for the dryer. Now, we'll point out too, you will notice throughout your unit, these are your ductworks where your AC is going to come out, and this is your ceiling assembly. Right above this is where that rooftop AC unit is, and you're going to have air that sucks into here, into that roof air. This is what's called your return air. Now, all these have filters on them that need to either be cleaned or replaced. Every now and again, whenever they get clogged up, they can restrict the air going into that AC and cause issues with the efficiency of that AC, so make sure you're monitoring that and taking care of it properly. In our kitchen area, we have our vent hood up here. We have two switches, one for the fan, one for our light, and that will control those options. If we're using our stovetop here and we want to ventilate out, we can do that. And we also have our 4-burner stove right here, operational. This is a gas appliance. We pick what burner we want, we turn that knob slightly, and we just click it until it ignites, and we have our burner lit. Now, we'll tell you, gas is, you can get air in your lines on your gas system whenever you store your unit with your propane tanks turned off, or let's say you just changed out a tank, you're going to end up with some air in your lines. So before you go operate things like your furnace or your tankless water heater or anything like that, I always suggest to customers, after you turn that propane on, come over to your stovetop and light it first. It may take a little time for it to light, 30 seconds or so, just holding that clicker down until it lights. And what you're doing is you're bleeding the air out of the system. Once it lights, let it run for another 30 to 60 seconds, then shut it off. Then you can go operate those appliances. This reduces the opportunity for those appliances to go into a fault mode and have to reset them and all that stuff. So the easiest thing to do is go here first and do that option. Now for our oven, we open up our door. If we look down at the bottom plate here, we have some holes down there. That's where our pilot's going to be. We take our center knob, turn it till we hit that ignition point, and we start clicking. We can see it sparking down there, and eventually that pilot is going to light. It may take, once again, a little bit of time because it may still have some air in the system. And once it lights, let it sit for about 30 seconds or so, and then you're going to want to turn to your temperature that you have set. Now from there, you should be able to see a bigger flame down there at the bottom, and you know it's lit. From that point, close your oven and you're ready to cook. Now, if your pilot goes off right off the bat, just start back from square one and let it run a little bit longer before you initiate that temperature. You do have panel lights right here on the side to light up above those, as well as one for your oven too. In our living room area on this particular unit, you are prepped for a third AC. You will notice this little cover right here. That is where our pre-wiring is for that 110 line. we could have that vent removed and have that third AC installed. We do have our Samsung refrigerator in here. This is our 110 operated device, and of course we need to make sure that whenever we are not using our unit, if we don't have it plugged in, this refrigerator is going to go off. So we want to make sure we take everything out of our fridge and we wipe it down real good so we don't leave any water or condensation in that fridge to mold or mildew. Real big important thing is we want to make sure that we empty out our ice tray in our freezer and we defrost that properly, because if we don't and that water leaks out of there, damaging any of our wood components around our fridge, it's not going to be covered under warranty. So take care of those items. We also have our 110 Insignia microwave right here. You do have an exhaust vent on it as well. That is what that vent on the side is going to exhaust to. The one over your stovetop is going to exhaust over the roof. Mounted on your island is your COLP detector. This is a device, safety device, to let you know if any gases have gotten into your unit. It will alert you and you need to evacuate. You need to test the alarm system on here every now and again to make sure that the chirping on that device still operates. We can see there's a little green light on here that lets us know that it's powered up. This is a 12-volt operated device, so it's going to be pulling off the voltage of your battery. Now these do have an expiration date on them. This one's printed on the front. Some of them you have to unscrew them to see it on the back. They're good for about 5 years, and then you need to replace that device. Our smoke detectors are also powered by a 9-volt battery, just like the ones at our house. We need to check that every now and again and make sure that's operational as well. In your living room area, you have your TV. Once again, that Key TV system that has satellite antenna or cable options on there. You're also able to upgrade your antenna system with a router, that WineGuard 4G LTE option. You can have that router installed in there and it will amplify the Wi-Fi at the campground, or you can get with a cellular provider, add a SIM card in there and have Wi-Fi wherever you go, and that is covered. Our JBL system right here, that's for our radio. It has Bluetooth, radio, all those options on there. And your A and B will control your zones for your interior speakers as well as your exterior speakers. Down below we have our 110 operated fireplace to give you heat if you don't want to use the gas. We'll go over the operation of that now. Here we have our fireplace. We have a sensor right up here in the top right. We have to aim that remote at to turn it on. We have our Celsius and Fahrenheit temperature we can change to. And right here, this little flame icon is going to change the dimness of our flame. If we want to change the lighting of our flame, we hit the light bulb on the screen down here at the bottom, and it'll give you some different options right there. If we want to operate our heater on a timer, once again, electric heater, it is going to be this button right here. It looks like a clock, and when we push it, we can see some times pop up: 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, all the way up to 8, and then it will go to 0 hours, letting you know that that timer is off. If we want to change our temperature, we'll use one of these two buttons at the bottom, and we can see once again we have a temperature down there, and we will go ahead and raise it until it kicks on, or lower it, we want it to kick off, or we can keep going until it says on, and that heater will stay running all the time. We kick it up one more time and it's going to say OF, meaning that that system is off.
Well, we hope you found that resourceful, but wait, there's more information on our Great American RV YouTube channel. This channel right here, find the playlist Hap's Helpful Hacks. We go over different products in this unit and we'll take a deeper dive with more diagnostics, more information, as well as helpful tips when you're out camping. Tell your buddies, tell your friends, like, share, subscribe, do all those awesome things on YouTube, TikTok, wherever you found us, and keep watching here at Great American RV SuperStores, where we bring the how-to you.